Hello, everybody. It's Rashad here. Just wanted to make this brief video, and I want to share with you all regarding avoiding becoming a twofold son of hell. And so I want to share with you 1 Corinthians chapter 8, 1 through 3. It's a text in which Paul is elaborating to the Corinthians, and I'm going to share my screen and give some commentary about it, and then we'll go on from there. All right. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verses 1 through 3. Now, concerning food offered to idols, we know that all of us possess knowledge. This knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. If anyone imagines that he knows something, he does not yet know as he ought to know. But if anyone loves God, he is known by God. And I'm going to stop there. One of the things that you can see from this text is very early on, Paul says, concerning food offered to idols. Those idols that Paul's referring to are demons. You know about this in 1 Corinthians 10. And so you understand that he's making a reference to the temple idols, the temple priests, etc., because the temple priests largely thought they had a lot of knowledge. They knew about the gods, they knew about all the mysteries and etc. But interesting enough, what comes along with knowledge is pride. And this is something that, yes, it was in ancient Corinth, but way before Corinth, it was in humanity in general. How do we know this? Going all the way back to the Garden of Eden. Ask yourself the question, what tree did Adam and Eve eat from? The tree of knowledge of good and evil. Eve was tempted with knowledge. She saw the fruit of the tree and she said, man, I could be wise. I could have this knowledge. She was seduced by knowledge through the serpent. Seduced. Oh, if I could get that knowledge, I could become more like God. And she went about the wrong way. And likewise, when Adam ate from that tree, sin came into the world. We've been in the fallen state ever since. And the idea is we can go about seeking knowledge in the wrong way. And they can lead ultimately to our downfall. But this is not just found in the Garden of Eden. It's found also in the ministry of Jesus. We know the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes. These were the men in that day who had all of the theological knowledge that one can ever achieve. They knew the law of Moses. They knew the Psalms. They knew the prophets. And even though they knew these books, they could not recognize the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the Son of Man, standing right there before them. The very author of those books, they could not recognize who he was. Was it because of a knowledge issue? Was it because of their knowledge accumulation? No. It was because of their heart. It was because of their character. They used that knowledge in the wrong way. They used that knowledge to beat up people. In fact, they used that very knowledge to crucify Jesus. Jesus even called him out on this during his ministry. He says, you tithe your cumin, your dill, and your spices, but then you neglect the weightier things of the law. What are the weightier things of the law, Rashad? Faithfulness, justice, and mercy. Matthew 23, verse 23. But Jesus called them out. He says, these guys, they love the praise of men. They love to hear their name in the marketplaces. They're very greedy. They love money. He knew their hearts. He knew their character. And this is the danger of accumulating knowledge, but then not accumulating heart knowledge and becoming more humble, becoming more virtuous. You see, they had big heads and a very small heart. And then that right there was their downfall. In fact, I believe in this very text, Paul is also reflecting on himself. Let me pull it up again. If you look at 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 2, I think Paul is reflecting on his own experience when he says, if anyone imagines that he knows something, he does not yet know it as he ought to know. We got to remember that the Apostle Paul at one time was just Saul of Tarsus, the Pharisee of Pharisees. Paul himself, he was the very one putting Christians in prison. He also affirmed Stephen being stoned to death. And he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought these Christians were a bunch of idolaters. They were being blasphemous, and they deserved to be in prison. They deserved to die because of their blasphemy of Yahweh. That's why he was doing what he was doing. But that was based off his knowledge. And he was extremely proud in that, extremely arrogant, had a lack of love, a lack of compassion in his heart. Until the day Christ met him on that road to Damascus, and his life changed forever. And you see, this is the reality, my friends. Regardless if you're in ministry and you're in Bible school, seminary, regardless if you're in some big industry or a big businessman or whatever, if you're accumulating, if you're a great specialist on your job in knowledge, but you're a jerk, it never works out well. In other words, if you have a head full of knowledge and a lack of virtue, you will always have issues because you will be arrogant, you will be proud, and that pride will always repel people, and it certainly will repel God. And so the reality is this: true knowledge is going to lead to what? Virtue. We notice from 2 Peter chapter 1, when he says, supplement your faith with virtue, and with virtue, knowledge, and with knowledge, self-control. It's interesting, he makes that jump from gnosis, that's the Greek word, to self-control, self-control rather. Why? Because the knowledge that we're accumulating should move us to become more virtuous people, which is certainly in need of self-control, because self-control applies to so many different areas of your life. Whether it's your eyes, if you're having trouble with lust, you need self-control when it comes to battling lust, when it comes to the idea of bridling your tongue, when you shouldn't say something that will be mean and nasty, that you bridle your tongue, that's self-control. When it comes to having the discipline to say, you know what, I need to get this work done, so let me put this Facebook aside and let me just get my work done, etc. Whatever it may be, self-control is a big deal. It permeates the idea of having what? Virtue. In fact, virtue is essentially living by the Spirit. That's Romans 8 and Galatians 5. We go to Galatians 5 and you read about the fruits of the Spirit. All those different descriptions that Paul is labeling as fruits are virtues, moral excellencies. Indeed, that's what they are. That's what we should be striving to become. In fact, all that is an embodiment of what the Bible talks about as the law of liberty. We freely want to live this way, not under compulsion. No, we want to become like that because that conforms us to the image of Christ. But indeed, if you neglect that, and you just read the word and go to a million Bible studies and just have a head full of knowledge, you will become a twofold son of hell. And that is not what we should want. All right, guys, let me end here. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Like this video. It will help me out a whole lot. Until the next time, be blessed, and I'll be talking to you soon. All right.